What is going on, Bronze Slaying homies? My name is Tyler, and we are back on another episode of DC Bronzies. As you can see, we got snow. It's about that time of year right now. My dad and I are up north in Wisconsin. We have found some safe ice. This ice is great. We've got probably 3 inches of ice over here at some lake that we're just checking out randomly. Things are looking good. We're out there. I'm like, this lake's kind of a dead sea. That's what my dad is saying. I'm like, we'll drill a couple holes and see what happens. Get out to a spot, sitting there for a while. I'm like, I'm fiddling with a bunch of small perch. Turns out these are no small perch. They are, in fact, some nice bluegills. I just caught one that was like 8-9 inches. So, I don't know. Totally new lake, never fished this before. I think we're gonna set up the camera and see if we can catch a few more of these bad boys. I don't know if the lake has a bunch of them or if that was just a fluke, but we're gonna see. If you guys have not yet, please do subscribe down below. I would really, really appreciate it. Go check out my Instagram, which will be linked down below as well. Guys, it's first ice. We are on first ice in Wisconsin. It's November 28th, so that's pretty solid. I don't know if you're as pumped as I am, but I cannot wait for the ice fishing season. So let's get to it. Well, as you can see, shoreline isn't great, but the rest of the lake is solid. Not too bad. Originally I thought all of these were perch. A lot of these lakes up in northern Wisconsin have a lot of tiny perch that'll mess around with you, so it's kind of what I figured they were, but instead I pulled up a big bluegill. I kind of knew it was a bluegill too once I hooked it, because you know they always do those circles around the hole, so had a lot of marks on me too, and that one just happened to be the aggressive one. Is that a slab? Looks decent. Oh, they're back. Oh, got one racing up. Is it recording? Sure. Well guys, didn't have the camera going, but second fish of the 2022 or 2021-2022 season. A little largemouth here. First I thought I was tangling into a big bluegill, but there we go. Nice little northern Wisconsin largemouth through the ice. Gonna send him back. Watch a picture of him first. Here he goes. Well, it's not a different hole, but here's another largie. Really pretty colors on these little guys. Still fun. I mean, we're looking for bluegills and crappies, but can't complain when we're putting a few fish on the ice here for the first outing of the season. Well, we got the target species, however, not the right size. Little boy. Hey. What a bass on, guys. Whoa. Biggest one of the day yet. Not even too bad. Not bad at all, look at that. On the jig, the gold jig with a plastic. Upper lip. Long and skinny, but can't complain. Look at that. Alright, we're gonna let him go. There he goes. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an informational look into how I find these early ice, first ice lakes that you can safely go out and fish on. One big thing that I like to use is Google Maps. I know a lot of people do that. It's just something that I like to use to kind of scope out lakes in the area that I'm fishing. It's just a really, really, really helpful tool just to get a quick overview of what you're looking at. So obviously the first thing is making sure that whatever area you're in has some sort of ice somewhere, or at least you can assume it does. Maybe there's skim ice on some lakes. I'm going to give you lakes and areas to avoid, as well as what you want to be looking for in order to find that safe ice. So first thing and biggest thing, most obvious thing, is avoiding large lakes. This is something that I think everybody is pretty well aware of. You want to avoid those lakes that are really large because they're going to be freezing last, because it takes them the longest to cool down. With this also comes avoiding even mid-size or smaller lakes that are really deep. Deep water, same deal, takes longer for that water to form ice because it takes longer for it to cool down. Now that we got that aside, I was in an area this weekend where I was fishing and I knew there was ice. I knew some lakes had ice, some lakes we drove by didn't have ice at all, not even skim ice, which was a little bit concerning, but you look around in the area and there are small lakes where you're going to find ice. One thing that you also want to avoid is something like a flowage. So as you can see here, this lake, you can tell, is definitely going to have some sort of flow in it. I just picked a random area here that I'm showing on Google Maps, but you can see that you've got this river either flowing in or flowing out. I'm not too sure. Regardless, though, there's some sort of flow in this lake. And where you find current or flow, you're definitely not going to have ice that's as good if there's ice at all. That's another thing that you really want to avoid. So from here, say I'm in this area, I'm looking at Google Maps. One thing I like to do is go around and look to see, okay, here's a small lake. That looks kind of good. Sometimes these lakes don't have access, sometimes they do. So you just have to find the lakes that have access. I like to look around and see, hey, there is this little lake over here. This lake, on first glance, looks good because of the size. But here's another concern, is that some of these lakes, these smaller lakes up in northern Wisconsin or wherever you may be, are spring-fed. And that's also a big thing where the water is going to be warmer coming out of these springs, and this ice might not be any good. You can see here there's kind of like this bog and little creeks coming in and out. Usually spring-fed lakes have no inlets, but they do have some sort of an outlet. So here you can see this is probably a spring-fed lake right here. Granted, this doesn't look like it has any public access, but you can see where this just has an outflow here. It appears to be an outflow that comes into this lake right here. So this is probably something where it's a spring-fed lake. Although it's really small, it's probably going to be some maybe unsafe ice early on. An example of this is this weekend went to a lake that I really wanted to fish, hit the lake and checked the ice. All the shorelines were really soft, and that's a big thing too, is usually the shoreline ice takes longer to get good than the ice in the middle of the lake. So you have to make sure, if you can get out on the shorelines, chances are the lake has good ice throughout. Obviously you want to check that. But that was an example where I believe that lake might be spring-fed. The ice was almost like rotten. And then we went to a couple lakes within 10 minutes of that, and the ice was really solid, nice, clear black ice. So definitely be checking for that. I think one of the biggest keys is just to kind of use Google Maps and look around the area that you're in, looking for those, smaller lakes, maybe something like this that have access, that may be a lake where you can find that safe ice. I hope this helped you guys. Just want to give you a little bit of a informational / tip overview on what I do to find early first safe ice that I can go fish on. That'll wrap it up for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Go subscribe down below. Go check out my Instagram. I'm going to do my best to try to make a lot more videos. I've been kind of lacking in the last year or so. I love ice fishing. It's my absolute favorite time of year for fishing. So there's going to be a lot of videos on ice fishing. You guys can expect that. Let me know what you want to see this winter. Going to be a ton of fun. Until next time, guys, we will catch you on the next episode of DC Bronzies. See ya.